All right, everybody, this is Sheets, and Bobby and I are going to be doing our early look at the NFL slate for this coming Sunday. And just for for those of you who have not been on board yet, we usually do this on Wednesday, and then usually Bobby and Rhodey do a little bit more of an in-depth look sometime over the next couple of days. And then on Sunday, we do kind of a final look at like about 11:30. We have a little bit more of a full slate this week than we've had the last couple of weeks. We have a full 12-game slate. And we'll try to get everybody on the winning track. I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll just start going. Well, what we're gonna do is we're going to talk about our favorite games, and we're also going to talk about favorite positions and stuff like that. Keep in mind this is kind of an early look, but so like, well, you want we'll go game by game, and then we'll kind of surprise people with what our favorite games are. So let's start with Cincinnati against the New York Jets, who are just a colossal embarrassment to all that is football. And Cincinnati, who just I hate to say it, they're good. they have skill positions and good enough defense. So they are in contention in the AFC to make the playoffs, maybe win a game. I don't know. We'll see. Do you have any interest from a fantasy perspective in this game?
Yes, I think the price is too cheap on T. Higgins. I know Jamar Chase had the big game, and Jamar Chase is unbelievable athletically. T. Higgins had 15 targets last week. He only had 7 receptions. I think with his size and body, you could see him near the goal line. I think that he hasn't had that really monster fantasy point game, but I like him, and I really like Joe Mixon against the Jets. I actually think the Jets, as bad as we could say their defense is, it's really just their whole team is so bad. They can't move the ball. They can't keep the defense off the field. But certainly should be plenty of opportunity for Mixon. Kind of frustrating that P. Ryan's been getting as much run as he has, because it did sort of affect Mixon's upside in the last week. I mean, he had 11 carries, because partly they were blowing out Baltimore, but 11 carries for P. Ryan for a touchdown, 52. He had 14 fantasy points. Like those to go to Joe Mixon, but I still like Mixon quite a bit. And I'm having trouble getting to anything on the Jets side. If you wanted to take a shot on Corey Davis or Jamison Crowder, be my guest. I don't know if that's optimal. This is a good defense, and the Bengals defense, I know it's a little expensive, but they're definitely one of the priorities if you can get to them.
I was about to ask you about that. I'll throw in a guy to listen. You invented Cordell Patterson before anybody did, and I would like to say that I think I might have invented C.J. Uzomah.
Yep.
And he smashed again last week for three good old targets, 3 good old receptions, including a 55-yarder for 24 fantasy points.
Yeah.
So basically, all the Bengals guys went off on the overrated Baltimore defense. So I'll throw him in the mix. I mean, again, this could be one of those games that we talked about the other day, where the Bengals might just be able to troll the Jets and just get whoever they want scores. It's possible. But it's not a game I'm targeting in any real sense. You could certainly make a good case for a good old classic Mixon Bengals defense correlation, just like they taught you in DFS 101. I'm not quite getting to him right now, Mixon, but I'll look at it a little more.
Yeah, the numbers don't like him, and I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe it's because P. Ryan had so much of the work last week. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Okay, you want to move ahead to Miami Buffalo?
Yeah, let's talk about Miami Buffalo, because so the play on Miami, if you ask me, is if you're going to play anybody, I think Gesicki and, well, I guess there's 2 guys, Gesicki and Myles Gaskin. The argument being, so when they've been blown out in a couple of times this season, Miami, you've seen Myles Gaskin get a ton of passing work. He had 10 catches against Tampa Bay in that game. He had 4 catches last week. He's usually getting 4, somewhere between, his targets have been 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, and 10 in the games that he was healthy for. So I'm open to taking that, because that at 5,600, that certainly is a reasonable price. So that would be on the Miami side. On the Buffalo side, you could just play the usuals. I think that Emmanuel Sanders has come back down to a realistic price, and I think that he's not a terrible play with Josh Allen, because I do think that Josh Allen makes a lot of sense. But it's really going to be just probably those guys. I don't mind Diggs. I don't know that they're going to need for him to go nuts. So Allen to Diggs, or Sanders is probably all I'm willing to do in this game.
Yeah, I don't really have much in this game. I would probably be reaching. They're not one of my teams to target, and then I just have they're not one of my running backs I like, not my value tight ends. I really don't have much of anything in this game. I'd rather just go ahead.
Yeah, we can move on. The only thing I'll just mention, though, is that I would never cross a Josh Allen game off too quickly, just because he's got, his ceiling at quarterback is one of the 4 top guys. So that's all I'm throwing out there.
I would like to comment on the Rams last game. I want to throw it out there to the Detroit coach. I mean, they
get him hard.
He first of all, they've been trying every freaking week, right? There are teams that are bad that are just throwing in the towel, and there are teams that are bad who are just trying. And the Detroit Lions could very well be 3-2 right, and they got a little lucky. They try every freaking game, and I'll tell you this: like Goff going back in, going to play the Rams. I mean, they threw in the freaking kitchen sink. They threw in the onside kick. How many times do you see 2 fake punts in the same game? They really tried their best. They gave Goff the ball down 6 with 4 or 5 minutes to go, and then he got Ramsey eyes. That's just what happens sometimes. So they tried, but nonetheless, Cooper Kupp is just insane. I mean, he's just the man. What can I tell you? And I'm probably just going to keep playing these Rams like that until further notice. So the Rams are my top team to stack. I don't care about blowout risk. I don't care about anything.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I like Kupp. I like Woods. I like Henderson. And I like Cooks coming back from Houston. And every game, by the way, that the Rams play that's like kind of close, like this last one was, they weren't expecting. It just reduces you know what I mean? Like it just reduces the risk that they coast the next one. So I think that they're gonna put the pedal to the metal and put up as many points as they can. And if Houston accommodates them, I think they're good for. I think Kupp could get 40 again. I mean, I really, really do. I think you could throw Higbee in as a tight end. You could sprinkle in more Jefferson. I totally think it's totally fine. And I think obviously the game script sets up really nicely for some kind of run back from Houston. And Cooks just seems to be like the easiest one. So that's where I am over there.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton of interest in stacking the Rams. I don't want to play Stafford at 7,600 when I can play Josh Allen at 8,100. I just don't think he. I mean, what's his ceiling? His ceiling games are so much lower than these running quarterbacks that if you want to, I mean, the guy hasn't scored 30 fantasy points this season, even though he's had some monster games. The only way he's out, even if you're going to play like 2 receivers, I almost feel like just play a different quarterback, because he's too expensive for. I mean, he's not too expensive. He's just, there's other guys who can run. He has no running upside. Okay, so I'm going to say this game is going to be a little bit. I actually think this is a good chance for Houston to cover. Personally, I think that there's a reason that, like, Tyrod Taylor being back is not a small thing, and by the time the week's done, I might even consider playing a little bit of Tyrod Taylor if he's in the game, if he's back. 4,900 gives you that savings at quarterback, allows you to do a lot of other things. And playing Brandon Cooks and Tyrod Taylor, and then running it back with one of the Rams receivers or Henderson, I think is completely viable. So I don't mind that angle. I think Van Jefferson should be included as a potential value play.
Yeah.
I've been mentioning this over and over again about him, especially in spots where he can make one big play downfield, which Houston has given up plenty. I think that this is an interesting spot for these guys. So I do kind of like the game a little bit. I just don't think I want to play. It's weird to say that I would play Tyrod Taylor and not Jared Goff, but I feel like Tyrod Taylor will get you 20 fantasy points. You're fine with it at 4,900. Jared Goff gets you 28 at 76. And just what are you paying for at that point? So that's my reason for not playing the Stafford stack. And honestly, everybody complained about their Stafford stack. Oh, if I only got this right, the truth is playing Stafford was a good play when he was, 1,000 to 1,500, 2,000 cheaper than these top quarterbacks who can run. And once he gets to this price range, you're really narrowing your field down. You try and play him with Cup, and what else you're gonna play scrubs at every other position on your lineup. I can't get to that kind of build. Cup will probably have a big game as he always does. I think this is a good opportunity to probably jump off at 9K. It's a little bit like, how are you going to build the rest of your lineups unless we get incredible value? So I would lean a little bit more on Robert Woods this week, but I don't mind. I mean, I'm never going to say Cooper Kupp's a bad play. That's where I'm at.
You might have solved my problem. I could play two receivers from the Rams with Tyrod Taylor, like you said.
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor and then Cooks, and there you go.
If I'm going to play Cooks with the two receivers anyway, why not save $3,000?
Absolutely. Why not?
All right, let's move ahead to what could be a real ugly one. San Francisco, Chicago. I literally don't have a shred from this game. Should I play Herbert? Should I play Deebo Samuel? Eli Mitchell had a good game. Yeah, that's what I like actually. I do have a sliver. I do like Eli Mitchell both on DraftKings and on FanDuel. And that's the extent of my interest in this game. So Eli Mitchell, and that was it.
Yeah, Mitchell's too cheap. However, I kind of think that I'm going to do something that really hasn't paid off even a little bit this year, paid off for us last year. I mean, look, all of these guys are really cheap. The Giants seem to be a little bit overrated. I don't mind if you want to get a Brandon Ayuk in there. I know it sounds so thin. I know I still believe in the talent of this kid, and it's hard for me to ignore that. I know he's only had one decent game this season, but he's 4,200. We're looking for some value, so he's on my list of value guys. Oddly enough, also on my list are a guy who's never been on my list for value, and he's been nothing so far this year, is Allen Robinson, and may just be broken. But he and Mooney, I think, are both in play as value options. That's all I've got from this game with Eli Mitchell.
Want to move ahead to Tennessee, Indianapolis?
Yes, sir.
So I have, just so you know, I have 5 teams that are like my top, teams to target. The Rams were number 1, and Tennessee is number 5. So that they're in there, both on DraftKings and on FanDuel. I do have Henry as one of the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 or 6, 7 top running backs. I don't have him as a must play or anything like that, but I definitely want to consider the passing game from Indianapolis. And it would be the usual suspects. It would be what's his name from Tennessee? Sorry, Ryan Tannehill, Julio. God forbid he's healthy one of these days. AJ Brown. He seems pretty good. So Tannehill, AJ Brown, Julio Jones. I like both them. And again, very easy run back with what's his name with Pittman if you want to do that. I didn't quite get to Jonathan Taylor. Can't quite understand why. I mean, the guy's been great. I just didn't quite get to him this week. But look, it's only Wednesday. Who knows? So, but I do like Tennessee. I think they're going to continue to put up points. And I think this could be a good game to target overall.
Yeah, I can get behind the Jonathan Taylor play. This game is going to hinge. I mean, how much I want to stack this game will depend a little bit on whether T.Y. Hilton's healthy. If he's not, I think Pittman is a phenomenal play. I still don't buy the Tennessee secondary. I know it's weird to say after they just shut down the best team and best offense that we've maybe ever seen over the last couple of years in the Chiefs. Even as the Chiefs have struggled this year, their offense. But if you get T.Y. Hilton back, I would be open to T.Y. Hilton as well. It just would kill a little bit of my love for Pittman. And I really do like Pittman. And we don't have Paris Campbell, who's out now. So there's some opening there. So even if T.Y. plays, I think you can consider both those guys as receivers. I think both Brown and Julio are in play. The problem with Julio, as it always is this, man, the guy just doesn't get in the end zone. Nobody has more catches, more receiving yards than any in history. And he has literally 25 career less touchdowns than everybody who's on that list, on that top of that list. So that's my issue with Julio. I also hate playing Indianapolis games. Like, and you got the weird one against Baltimore, but generally this team plays very slow. Indy, they pound the ball. Both these teams, there's a path where you literally have like one possession each per quarter, because they might just be running the ball. At the same time, it could, the game flow and everything is going to dictate it. If it's a 2-score game, maybe they mix things up a little bit. So I have Henry, Julio, and some interest in Henry, Julio, and AJ Brown, but not like a ton. I do really like Michael Pittman, regardless of whether TY plays, but if TY plays, I would include TY as a potential in that game. Not very interested in the quarterbacks myself.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. All right. You want to talk some Pittsburgh and Cleveland here?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I don't know who's playing for Cleveland. Everybody's questionable. Everybody's out. He hopes to play Sunday. He needs to see how his calf injury responds. I mean, just gotta have to wait. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you about that. All these Q tags, it's just kind of ridiculous to speculate. I currently don't have anybody from this game of any interest, just because, again, I just don't know who's playing. I will say that Najee Harris has been pretty good. I don't know about 7,500 though. I don't know if I can do that, but that's pretty much all I have. Again, I'm just gonna have to default on this game until we get a little more clarity of who's actually playing.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I think as it is with every week, you kind of want to take shots with the receivers for Pittsburgh. I mean, just look at Deontay Johnson's season he's having, and everybody says, "Oh, Roethlisberger can't throw the ball, so maybe they don't want to play him as much." I know he's 6,700, but I mean, Deontay Johnson, this could be a 15 target game for him. I mean, every game could be a 15 target game. He basically, in all the games except for the one he got banged up in, he's had 13. He had 10, 12, 13, and 13 targets this season. I think he's an interesting play because Roethlisberger's limitations. It's almost like he has to throw that more, and that's why Najee Harris has such a high ceiling and more importantly a high floor. He's been over 21 fantasy points in his last 4 games. Actually, been over 19 in every game since the opener, which was against the Bills, so it's kind of forgivable. I think that there's something to do with this game that I personally would my initial thoughts would be the over, and I might even get disgusting and play this Baker stack. Not my favorite thing in the world to usually do, but Baker at 5,500 with these guys who can't get it going at all, but just Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry are so cheap. It just feels like you'd want to maybe take a shot on either one of those guys. That's where I'm at. They're cheap enough, so I actually think they're in the value category for me. OBJ and Landry, just based on potential upside, and it wouldn't surprise us at all if they had a game one of these days. So I actually think I'm going to try to play one of those guys. I think Landry's the more natural one to play, but I think OBJ has got a ceiling. He just never, ever hits it in Cleveland with Deontay Johnson on the other side. So I actually like that low scoring game a little better than maybe most people will.
Philadelphia against Detroit. Is that the next one I have on my list? Yeah, Philadelphia against Detroit. So Philadelphia is one of my top 3 teams to go after, and it usually provides the challenge of who to pair Hurts with. But now with Hurts gone, you have I presume he's going to be just uber chalk as Dallas Goedert at tight end for Philly, and it's a really, really strong play. So I have no problem targeting this game. Play Hurts, play Goddard, play maybe Devonta Smith. That could be my other one. And then on the Detroit side, I'll go right back to the usual suspects like DeAndre Swift and Hawkinson. You can play double tight end lineup with Goddard and Hawkinson and make that work. Or you can go back to that other guy that I don't know if he did anything. Maybe he didn't. There was a couple of guys. The St. Brown guy didn't do much, but the guy played that did well. Oh, they moved him up. Damn it, Khalif Raymond. They moved him up in price. He had a really, really nice game. He had, as you'll see, he had 8 targets, 6 receptions, 115 yards. So I think this game, look, it's in a dome, and as you get later in the season, playing in better weather gives you that kind of competitive advantage. We're not quite there yet, but something to think about. So I like this game a lot.
Yeah, I actually think you could even argue for St. Brown a little bit here. Khalif Raymond though is in terms of usage, he's fine. It's hard for me to get there, but I might, because I like you. I like this game. I like the Philadelphia. I like the Hurts to Goddard, and I like Gainwell too.
Oh, okay.
I'm a fan of this, and you get a cheap running back in there, so maybe you can play the guys like Cup if you want to go that route. But Gainwell has had some games even when we had Miles Sanders there, and Miles Sanders is out. I do think Boston Scott will get some of the work, but I think it's going to go mostly to Gainwell. They seem to like him. They seem to like him in the passing game too. I think Boston Scott could even get similar rushing attempts, but I really like the idea of maybe taking some shots with Gainwell, and I think you can even play him with Hurst. I also love Devontae Smith, who's probably my favorite player in this game. And then you get, even the Quez Watkins and Jalen Reagor. There's more upside than we think from them, but I don't think that we need to go that far. I like the Hurst to either Goddard and/or Gainwell and Smith, and then on the other side you run it back with Swift. I don't think I would double tight end, but I do like Hawkinson where I'm not going to be using Goddard.
Yep.
Carolina, go ahead.
I'm gonna go to the next game. Hold on a minute. Draft team. Let's go to the next game, which is Carolina, Atlanta. So this is probably my favorite game. The only reason I mention it is because I have Carolina rated 4th and Atlanta rated 5th. So if you got two teams you like in the same, like that in the same game, I'm kind of in there. I hope. I mean, this constant discussion about what's his name, about Darnold, who was right? The public, the general managers, or whatever it is. I think they benched him in the second half, but I'll go right back there. I'll go right back with Darnold to DJ Moore, and I'll go right back until he finally does it. I'll get there to Robbie Anderson. I'll play him, and then on the Atlanta side, the usual suspects over there. Matt Ryan, Ridley, Pitts. Now, look, Carolina does have a good defense, but you know what? Can't have everything in life, right? So I like both sides of this game, and I think this is a very, very viable game stack. And not to mention Hubbard at running back, and not to mention our old buddy. We could put in Patterson also.
Yeah, I like all the guys we're talking about. I don't know about the Patterson. They've been really good against the running game, but again, he can get there in multiple ways. So I do like the Carolina side of this. I like Darnold to Moore and/or Anderson, potentially just one of them, because he has so many rushing touchdowns. I think that it's probably more optimal to try to look for just one receiver to pair with him, which would naturally be Moore. But if you wanted to save some money, I think you could take a shot with Robbie Anderson, and maybe it's his day finally. On the other side, Calvin Ridley is way too cheap. Calvin Ridley is probably going to show up by the end of the week as one of the top plays, and I really like Ridley. So I would rather do that than play Patterson, but I don't mind the Patterson idea either. I know they're different positions, well, kind of.
Right.
And but the real news is one of the best receivers in football at tight end is becoming, and he's coming into his own, is Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts has put up 2 monster games in a row now. I have no reason to think that he's just going to stop, and I think he is a real matchup issue for everybody they try to set up against him, and they look for him a ton. So I like this whole game, and my favorites being Darnold, probably to Moore, most likely. I don't mind Chuba either. But with hopefully Chuba can get some passing game work out of the backfield, because we know how that works against Atlanta. These running backs, man, how often do we see it? It never changes. It's since we started playing DFS, these guys just get torched through the air from the running backs, and it really hasn't changed much. So Ridley is my favorite play in the game overall, but if you do Darnold with Moore or Anderson with Ridley on the other side, or Pitts, that's probably a good route. This is definitely a game that I would have some interest in as well, and it's a lower scoring one, so maybe you don't get the game ownership stack that other people will. I don't think people are going to jump on playing Darnold again, but I'm with you. I'll take a shot there for sure.
I will tell you which we go ahead to New England, LAC. I don't know why I'm getting nothing from the Chargers specifically. I was expecting to get the usual suspects in my numbers, like with Eckler or Allen or Mike Williams or whatever. I'm almost inclined to believe I don't have them projected for some reason, because it's just kind of silly to not have some interest in them. I'm going to take a look at that, because I literally don't have a shred of that. I'm going to look at that later. What I do have for now is I do have Myers from the New England side as a decent play, and that's pretty much what I have from this game. I'm just gonna have to double check and see why I don't have much Chargers at all.
Yeah, so there's an interesting situation here with Jonnu Smith being questionable for New England, because if he is gone, I think I think Hunter Henry might be the better play than Goddard. He might be better than all of them. The Chargers have been absolutely torched by tight ends. They've given up, I think, 2 of the biggest games of the season to tight ends so far this year. I was at one of them where David Njoku just had an absolute field day with the way they were playing defense underneath. So I like the idea of playing Hunter Henry a lot. I'm okay with Myers, but I really like the Hunter Henry idea. And I am going to live and die with the Keenan Allen thing. I think it's been on the wrong side of some variance, and hasn't really put up that monstrous Keenan Allen game that we know he has in him. I have no.
Yeah, sorry. I don't even have it projected. Okay, that's why. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
I'll get that fixed.
But it is the Patriots. They'll do a good job trying to shut down what you can do, which, by the way, is probably trying to shut down Mike Williams because of the way he's had a monster season. But I'm finding myself with some Allen, but mostly it's just Allen, Henry, and Myers in this game. I think you can consider Eckler, but I just don't think I'm going to be able to get there at that price. So it's a game I expect. I'm a little surprised by the total here, and I'll go out on a limb. I think the Chargers are good. I think that you're going to see 1 million people from Boston in LA for this game. There's a lot of Boston transplants in LA, and this is going to turn into not a Patriots home game, but it's not going to be the home field advantage the Chargers have enjoyed so far this season against teams like Cleveland. So I do think this game stays pretty tight, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's a lower scoring game if it hits the under. If I had to bet one way, I would probably lean under at first glance.
Okay.
You have the 2 teams who put the highest total up on the season so far this year, so of course I'm going to take the under.
Hey, now you're in my world, man.
Exactly. That's what I'm learning from you.
That's it.
Right,
I apologize. By the time this gets uploaded, the Chargers will be projected properly. All right, Jacksonville against Seattle. Anything?
Well, I mean, it depends, right? Like, I don't know if it depends. I do think that this Jacksonville thing, I think there's an argument to be made for Shenault here. They're gonna throw the ball. The issue, I really would like to say James Robinson here. The problem is, for some reason, I love James, and he's done a great job in the running game this year, but it's kind of frustrating to me that, because Lawrence is good and kind of wants to show off his arm so much, he tends to keep moving the ball downfield, which leads me to the receivers. The one who's going to show up as the value play is Jamal Agnew, who's had a couple of decent games in a row now. So I think either Agnew or Shenault. Probably not going to get to Marvin Jones, but did have a monster game last week against Miami, and maybe should be considered here. So I'm just going to make a note of the Jacksonville receivers. And because I don't believe in Jacksonville's defense, even with the fact that Geno Smith is the quarterback, I'm just always, look, DK Metcalf is 6,800. I don't care. He only had 2 catches last week, but 2 out of 5 targets against on Thursday against or Monday against New Orleans. He still had 96 yards and a touchdown on 2 catches. He had the 84-yarder. I just think that these prices, I probably would take some shots because it's not that hard for him to turn in, even with Geno Smith against this Jacksonville defense, 100-yard, 2-touchdown game. So I would lean on a little bit of Metcalf. And I think people are going to like Alex Collins.
What?
Yeah, I do. I think that 5,300 is a little too cheap, and he'll be on my list, but I don't know if I'm actually going to get to it. Everybody thinks that because they've been playing these showdown slates that this is like some sort of running back by committee. It really isn't. everybody tried to figure out, everybody's trying to play. I don't understand what happened on Monday. Apparently a bunch of people in our Discord were playing DJ Dallas. I have no idea where that came from. Especially with Rashad Penny back. It made no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, that was a bad play.
Yeah, I just didn't understand. I didn't play that day. I was driving, remember, but I didn't make any sense to me. But anyway.
Oh, it's ridiculous. You know what? Everybody should be very, very upset because pissing themselves. I actually talked about that when I did the live, the Discord. I said this is the day to not play DJ Dallas because exactly Rashad Penny was out. And I already mentioned that we played Dallas the week before. And even then, when he was supposed to get a lot of work, he barely got until the fourth quarter. That was a bad play.
Yeah, I agree. I always want to attack Jacksonville though, because they're going to throw the ball a lot and they play fairly quickly. There's going to be some spots. So I don't really want to stack this game up by any means, but I wouldn't surprise me if Trevor Lawrence had a decent day. And again, I like those value receivers, the Chenault and the Agnew for Jacksonville, with Metcalf on the other side would be the most I would. But even that is pretty minimal interest, except for I'm always a Metcalf guy. I just tend to always be well overweight on him, and I probably will be this week as well.
You like anything in Washington, Denver at all?
I'm struggling to find anything whatsoever that even comes close to making sense to me. I mean, Jerry Jeudy is probably coming back, and Jerry Jeudy is not a 4,900 receiver. There's that, I guess. You know what I would say, because they did give him the work and maybe the hairline fracture is healed. Maybe you could argue for Antonio Gibson because he's so cheap, but I don't think this is something we need to get too involved in. I
would say that you could always play Terry McLaurin. I would say you could always play
7,600 against one of the best defenses in football when there's other receivers out there. I mean, you could, but why are you doing it?
Why are you doing it? Yeah, I guess not.
Maybe if he comes in at 1% in a big field or something, he has a I was the one talking up. Me and Rhodey, that was our thing. We talked about the Green Bay and McLaurin and Adams, although Adams didn't get there, but McLaurin had a monster game, and we were certainly right on that. It was nice to have him at like 4% ownership because he's usually really popular. But Curtis Samuel is supposed to be back as well. We'll see about that one. And I really am having a hard time finding anything in this game at all.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think about Tampa Bay, New Orleans?
Oh, real quick. The last thing I would say, sorry, I forgot to say this before. The only thing I really am considering from that game are the two tight ends, Fant and Seals Jones. Those are those would be the plays I would consider from that last game. New Orleans and Tampa Bay. So if Gronk's back, if AB's back, I probably want to do nothing here. If Gronk and AB are out, I want at least one of the receivers, and I don't mind if you want to play Brady with two of them. I think Marquez Callaway is gonna turn in a bigger season. I know he didn't do anything on Monday, but we've seen some ceiling out of him in that Washington game. He's a little higher priced than I'd like to go, but he and Traquan are both in play for me. I don't know if Traquan is actually realistically, but I guess it would just be Callaway on that side of the ball. It's hard for me to want to play Kamara. You know my rule. And it's worked every time. I don't like running backs against Tampa Bay. However, Kamara is a different type of running back. He's sort of their slot receiver also.
Yep.
I'm not overly interested in this game, to be honest with you. But if we lose Brown or Gronk, then it makes the Brady to both those to two of them stack very viable, or just play two of them. Again, you don't need to use Brady. But that's where I stand on this. I don't really have like anything too exciting at the moment, assuming that AB and I guess if AB plays, I always have some interest in Antonio Brown, but that's pretty much it.
Just so you guys know, I did update the Chargers, so that should be reflected in projections.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree with exactly what you said, in that it depends who's playing. Like right now, I think I have like those guys that were out continue to be out for Tampa. So given that, I like Tampa quite a bit actually. I know that New Orleans is not the greatest matchup in the world, but I got to tell you, this Tampa team is good. Tom Brady's really good. Right? And these wide receivers are good, and they give him freaking time to throw, and you got a good quarterback and good receivers and time to throw. You're in business. And I do like Leonard Fournette. I think what might keep ownership down is the matchup. And it certainly makes sense. I mean, New Orleans does have a good defense, but if somehow, some way, these guys are not going to be owned, I mean, I'll go right back to this stuff. I mean, they're a freaking machine. I mean, not that Chicago's like the Bears defense of old, but they just like walk through that first half in a freaking tuxedo, put up like 35 points or whatever it is.
Yep.
So I'll if people forget to play Tampa for some reason, I'm going to be there on it. So Brady with Godwin and Evans. Or, I agree with you. I think if they're all back, it's kind of tough because you're not going to be able to get a ceiling, I think, from one of them. Because Brady
maybe Antonio Brown you could.
Maybe, but I think he does like to throw it around a little bit. But I still continue to like Fournette. I mean, every freaking day. So that's where I'm at in that game.
Yeah, I didn't really get to any Fournette, to be honest with you. I don't have a ton of interest there. Really good run defense in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I do think that even if AB plays, what you said, he does throw it around, but they throw the ball more than anybody else does. So it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? True. Somebody's still going to get there because you're going to get double-digit targets for at least one of these guys. Antonio Brown is the one who gets the most targets this season when he's in, with the exception of the Atlanta game. I mean, every game he's had pretty much we would be pretty okay with, except for the Patriots game where he only had 13 fantasy points, but that was because they didn't score any points. This is interesting. And I think Callaway on the other side, if you wanted to run it back, is probably your best bet. And it's weird to say that Callaway would be a better play than Kamara. It's just Kamara at this price against this type of run defense is really hard for me to get to with Derrick Henry at 8,900. So, yep. All right. So you want to quick sum up, or should I go, or do you want to go?
Yeah, I can go. So again, I like the Rams. Then I like the Bucks in Philly. We'll hold off on the Bucks, but I like Philly. I like that Carolina-Atlanta game. I like Tennessee as my games to target. As far as individual plays, I like Darrell Henderson, Kamara. These are running backs: Swift, Henry, and Fournette. And a little bit cheaper, I like Mitchell and Hubbard. Tight end, I think Goddard's kind of a lock. Wide receivers, I like just one-offs. Cooks, Myers, Kupp, obviously. And defenses, which you didn't talk about too much, I like Washington, Philadelphia, and FanDuel, I like the Rams.
All right. I like so I've got my games are weird because I just like the Buffalo side basically in that game, but I do like it. I like the Rams individual players. I don't think I'm going to do the full game stack unless I use Tyrod Taylor, but I would consider the Rams Houston as a potential game you could use. It feels so wrong to have Houston on there. Carolina Atlanta is probably my favorite game. Philadelphia Detroit I like quite a bit, and then I like a little bit of this Cleveland Pittsburgh game. Some of it has to do with pricing and the fact that I think that's a game that I would bet the over on if I had to bet right now. But actually I think there's a chance that they crush the over. Some of my favorite individual plays. Calvin Ridley is probably number one on the board for me, with DJ Moore probably being right there with him. I love Hunter Henry and Dallas Goedert at tight end, along with Hawkinson. I like the Gainwell for cheap. I like Swift and your run backs in that game on the Philly side. And I really like Hurts to Smith. I like Smith, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, probably my favorite quarterback at this moment, along with Josh Allen. And who else do we have here? I've got who is that? I can't even read my own writing. Some Metcalf as a one-off. I think Odell Beckham or Jarvis Landry at their prices. I know it feels foolish because they haven't done anything. It's just these prices for the upside. I mean, Jarvis Landry could come out of nowhere and have like 17 targets, he has those 12, 13 catch games. And depending on the game flow, it could be him, or OBJ could beat them over the top. And then I will continue shooting myself in the foot with Robbie Anderson, who catches like 30% of the balls thrown his way, which is like something we've never seen in the NFL history. So those are some of my individual plays.
All right, so look for the a little bit. It's the small dive. This is like the shallow end of the pool. Then Rhodey and Bobby will do even a deeper dive over the next couple of days, and then we'll finish it up on Sunday. And then Sunday night we'll go to live sweat when Bobby and Rhodey will be fighting for the $1 million first prize. And
or somebody else in our
I'll
Discord.
be more than happy to cash enough to make money in that thing. As long as someone here wins, I have no problem losing. All right. So good luck, everybody. We're gonna fire up a golf one, and I'll send you that invite in a second. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck, all.
I'll send this right over to you.